Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. So today I'm coming to you all with a review for Sylvie's Love, directed by Eugene Ashe and starring Tessa Thompson and Nnamdi Asomugha. So, Sylvie's Love tells the story of a young woman named Sylvie, of course, who works in her father's record shop in 1950s Harlem. While she's there, she ends up meeting an aspiring saxophonist named Robert, and from there they embark on a romance that continues across the years and amidst their professional successes. So, I'm going to start with the pros. Quite a few pros here. I really enjoyed this film. First and foremost, shout out to Eugene Ashe for bringing forth a story that is about Black romance and about Black love without being stereotypical, toxic, or negative. I love that this was just a laid back, carefree, old school, classic Hollywood type of romance film, but with Black leads. Both Tessa Thompson and Nnamdi Asomugha mentioned that several studios passed on this because they didn't think there was an audience for a film like this. Color me shocked. But of course, there is an audience, and we deserve to see representation of Black love and Black romance that is complex and layered and interesting and not just the same old, same old. This film, of course, is a period piece. You guys know how I feel about that. I love that this story was set in 1950s Harlem, and it showcased all the beauty and the simplicity of that time. Of course, we also know that the 1950s was not the most ideal time in history, especially for the Black community. But as Tessa Thompson mentioned in one of her interviews, even with those things going on, people were finding time to fall in love, to pursue their dreams, and laughing and dancing and finding joy wherever they could. So I love the fact that this is set in a very significant Black community during a very important time in history, and we get to experience the aesthetics and the visuals of that without having to experience the ugliness of that time necessarily. I think that's something very important to see. Because as she said, these experiences were still happening even in the midst of the challenges of those times as well. I also loved how the film explored Sylvie and Robert's professional lives and the conflicts and the challenges and the successes of that. I really thought that was also something really compelling, especially Sylvie as far as becoming a television producer. That was something I really found compelling, and I loved seeing them explore that industry and that world, especially for her as an African-American woman. I enjoyed Tessa Thompson in this film. I thought she brought a quiet strength and dignity to Sylvie, and I really enjoyed seeing the progression of her character, especially as far as becoming a television producer. Nnamdi Asomugha is still somewhat of a newcomer when it comes to acting. He previously starred in Hello, My Name is Doris and Crown Heights, and as the male lead in this film, I think he did a really solid job. I also enjoyed the supporting cast. There were so many actors I enjoyed in this film. I think it made for a really great ensemble cast. We had Regé-Jean Page. Of course, many of you will now know him as the Duke of Hastings on Bridgerton. But I first remember seeing him as Chicken George in the 2016 remake of Roots. And I thought it was so cool that both Sylvie's Love and Bridgerton projects that he was a part of both premiered on Christmas Day. So I'm definitely interested in seeing where his career progresses. I was so happy to see Aja Naomi King. I loved her as Michaela in How to Get Away with Murder, and she was also great as Cherry in Birth of a Nation. We also had Tony Bell, Alano Miller, Eva Longoria, Ryan Michelle Babb, Wendy McClendon-Covey, Lance Reddick. I mean, just so many great actors in this. So many actors I enjoy, and I love how they all played an important part in this film. Naturally, I love the 1950s costumes and the styling. I especially love the color palette, all these bold, saturated colors, blues, yellows, pinks, greens. I love the use of color in this film, and it was so aesthetically pleasing. There are so many moments where I could just take a snapshot and hang it on my wall. That's how good it looked. And I am definitely a jazz man, so listening to Thelonious Monk, Charlie Parker, Louis Armstrong, other popular jazz artists of the time, the music, it was the best. So I'm gonna jump over to the cons. Just a couple of cons here, nothing too bad. I will say that the central conflict behind Sylvie and Robert's relationship kind of threw me. Now, in the end, I did understand it because that conflict is what complicated their relationship and added some interesting dynamics to the story. But did that also have me side-eyeing them for a good part of the movie? Oh, absolutely. I think Tessa and Nnamdi's chemistry was good for the most part. There were times where it went up and down. There were times where I felt it. Then there were times I was kind of like, eh. Even though I enjoyed them together, there were times where I looked over at Chico and Mona, and I honestly thought that this film could have been about them. I had a similar gripe with the photograph, and I don't think it's as bad here, but I loved their chemistry together. So when I would see them, I wanted more of them, or I wanted to see more of them in this story. They just seemed like more compelling characters, and their romance seemed a lot more compelling. But, you know, the story isn't about them. So while I did think the chemistry overall was fine, there were times where it was a little up and down. And like I said, Regé-Jean Page and Naomi King, I think they definitely made that a lot more obvious whenever they were on screen. While I do think that Nnamdi Asomugha did a pretty solid job here, there were moments where I could tell he wasn't fully comfortable on camera. Like sometimes his facial expressions were a bit stiff, and there were times where I wanted him to emote just a little bit more than he was, and I wanted to connect his character a little bit more emotionally. But I think with time that'll definitely get better. And it was just moments here and there where I just wanted him to kind of pull a little bit more, but I know he's still new to this, so I definitely get it. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Sylvie's Love a B+. Really solid romance film. Love the aesthetics, love the visuals, love the colors, love the music, love just the whole vibe and style of this. It just was so relaxing. It was fun, and it was low stakes. It was very chill and laid back. Yes, there were central conflicts, but they weren't so trumped up to where it made you tense and you couldn't really enjoy the film. It was just something very relaxing and very enjoyable. And ironically, as much as the film centers itself around jazz, I think the film itself was kind of like jazz. Just very mellow, very soothing, very calm, and it just gives you a good vibe. It puts you in a good mood. So I can definitely say the film succeeded at doing that, and I really had a good time watching it. Sylvie's Love is currently streaming on Prime Video. You guys can check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.